problem, sir. Yes.
Okay, so I think the recording has started. So first, I'll just introduce. Good afternoon. I am Arjisha, and I have Shalaka with me, and we will be discussing the role of helplines in preventing violence against women and other gender minorities in India for the June 2023 issue of Swabhimaan. So the premise of Swabhimaan as a Center for New Economic Studies of Opijindal Global University is an initiative based on exploring the intersectionality of gender across the discourse of development studies, social policies, and entrepreneurship. And so for this issue, we would be interviewing Mr. Mohammed Noor Alam. He's the Executive Director of MARG, which is Multiple Action Research Group. He has more than 20 years of experience in academic, research, training, and project management, experience in education, research, NGO development sector. And even before joining MARG, he was a project fellow at the Department of Gender Studies, NCRT, MHRD, Government of India, and he has a specialization in gender, active citizenry, good governance, women's rights, and child rights, Dalit and minorities rights. So, firstly, thank you so much for agreeing with this for this interview for this much important topic. And Shalaka, if you could like start off with the first question.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, could you please tell us about your personal experience in the sector of women's right and gender equality, and what drives you to keep working towards the same?
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you, both of you, Asricha and Sharaka, for giving me this opportunity and to discuss all these very important and very significant questions and queries. So the first query was from Sharaka that what actually drives me to work in the sector and specifically promoting women's rights. Sharaka, my query would be, of course, there are several experiences in life which sometimes आपको प्रोत्साहित करता है to come to this sector because this NGO sector in itself was a very challenging sector. It is not it gives some kind of initial enthusiasm, but ultimately when you come into the reality, basically you are listening so many of the story which sometimes drives you toward negativity also. You feel sometimes very uh, not good. So again, I'll say that the only thing which motivates me is the concept of equality, and the concept equality which has been enshrined in the Constitution of India itself. Article 14 and then Article 15 is talking about that. Because if we don't have equality in our society, I guarantee there will be no liberty, and if equality and liberty gone, there will be no justice in the society. And then forget about the fraternity. So these four are interlinked, and equality is the primary requisite. It begins from the equality, then it leads toward. If equality is not there, can you say that liberty is there? Because equality is also a basis, to evaluate that whether equality is there or not. If I am an independent person, okay, I have liberty to move around. I have liberty to, eat the way what I want to eat. I want to wear what I want to wear, and I want to choose my partner as I wish. That liberty is, if it is said, so it will be only, evaluated through equality itself. You cannot say that okay, Mr. This and Mr. That has equality, but Mr. This will be deciding everything, and Mrs. Dash Dash is only have to follow that command. Okay, so it is not liberty. It is not liberty. Okay, because equality is not there. So equality drives me to work on this sector definitely, and the idea and the concept of itself, telling people about the rights and specifically the marginalized section, which include women, children, of course, gender minority, other minorities, all kind of segmentation which has to face the marginalization somehow from sometime from our system, sometime from our socio economic environment or policy itself, socio-economic policy itself. It happens, sometimes we don't know what is happening with us, but it is being decided by certain policy and certain certain requisite. So say for example, when this pandemic came, and suddenly one fine day we came to know that okay, this pandemic is coming to India also. Okay, it will definitely come to India, and within I think within month we came to know that okay, we have to be in our home only. We cannot go out, and that liberty was taken away. Why? Because the reason was the health pandemic. But do you know, when that situation was happening in India and all over the country, all over the world, there was again a crisis of equality at that time. And what kind of crisis was there? At that time, shadow pandemic was happening all over the country. Pandemic was definitely there, but there was a shadow pandemic. And the shadow pandemic was what? The spurt and sudden increase in domestic violence within the household with the women. Because before the lockdown, people used to go for work, women used to go for go for their work also, and work is, it is not only just earning money, it is also an enjoyment of liberty and equality, right, and justice also. So that was in danger. Suddenly this all travel crisis situation was happening. So situation like that actually, situation like that, challenges like that drives us to keep continue working on this kind of thing. I hope that I have given you answer.
Right, sir. So, like you mentioned about, I think domestic violence. I think one of your initiatives was on that. So, in your study report on promoting women's right to life and gender equality for combating domestic violence through gender-sensitive men justice partner, you highlighted four different states specifically. I think Begusaria, Wayanad, Karnal, and Cuttack. Will you tell us why were these chosen? And also, if you could, it would be great if you could shed some light on this initiative.
Yeah. So you know what? When this pandemic was happening, as I told you just a short while ago, so we observed that this shadow pandemic is all over the world. Okay. So at that time, we, all of us, we used to get lots of call. We used to get lots of, recommendation from the. In fact, at daily level, several NGO we came together and we tried to, make a kind of helpline also. We gave our own personal number as a helpline, and very much publicized. But even if we couldn't able to get so many call, because the perpetrator was there itself. Okay, so at that time it was decided and it was thought of that, why don't we work on women, men also, because all the time we talk about women only situation, right? But we don't talk or we don't engage the perpetrators, and if we don't engage the perpetrators, so in that case what happened, the situation become very ugly. They always keep this way. They always think that it is not our issue. Okay, women issue is women issue. Domestic violence is not our. They don't even realize. So that time only we decided. That time only we decided that okay, we should engage men, and those men will be gender sensitive men, so that they themselves become a part of combating domestic violence. If a man is gender sensitive, he can ensure within a family that it is not only about the spouses or the partners. It's all about the women in home. All the women in home. It's mother. She could be a sister. She could be a daughter also, and other women also, whom normally we don't consider as an equal, right? And our spouses definitely. So then, and the partners also. The it could be live-in partner or it could be intimate partner. So in that case, we decided to talk about that thing, and the idea was that to do a comparative study, and that is why we decided to identify four different geography, four different location. Of course, there was one criteria, was the variation. Say for example, we've been to Canal, so as it is a stereotype image of patriarchal society or deep patriarchy, then we included Wayanad. Wayanad is from Kerala, and Kerala is one of the like most illiterate state. I think the most state, the most literate, not only one, the most literate state. And typically there it has been studied that human development indexes are better in comparison to other states. So we try to, and also the society. We observed that the society is their matrilineal society. So that was one of the criteria also. So patriarchy versus matrilineal, So, and then we've been to Cuttack, of course, and Cuttack was identified because the Cuttack and Odisha specifically was facing, and all over the country was facing definitely, but specifically state like Odisha and Bihar, they faced reverse migration at that time. Many of the laborers, many of the the worker who was working outside. So for example, in Odisha, many people do migrate for work, not only to Delhi, but they go for South India also. They go to Tamil Nadu, they go to Trichy, they go to Tirupati, Coimbatore or Kerala, even Bangalore. So they had to, get back to their home. And that was also one of the reason that like what is happening there, that when these men came back to the home, and suddenly these women whose husbands are normally out of the station, and they come to on a yearly basis for 15 days or maybe month, but they are here for ultimate time. Nobody know when they will get back. So suddenly they used to feel that the situation, crisis situation, that their liberty and equality gone, and then economic issues started creeping up. So we wanted to understand the economic factor also, whether economic factor also leads toward domestic violence. That was one of them. And the fourth district was Begusarai. Begusarai, we been, of course, the reverse migration and all economic factor was there, but the idea was there. There was a train. There is a train, in fact, in Begusarai, and it has been talked at several places that um, Pakrawa Viva is there. So Pakrawa Viva, I hope that you must be aware, where the woman's side, the bride side, will find a suitable match, and then the groom will be abducted or got hold at some place, and उसकी मर्जी के विरुद्ध लड़की से शादी करा दी जाएगी. And that situation sometimes leads to some crisis again. But sometimes it may be a kind of dream situation for women, right? Okay, we like this boy and we will just tell our family, इसको मेरे साथ शादी करा दो. Family गया बंदूक लेके उसको उठा के लाया और शादी करा दिया. Whether that situation is also helping or not helping, or that is also creating a problem of domestic violence. And then, so this four geography was the region why we identified. So typically Kerala, Bihar specifically Begusarai, and Karnal, I told you the variety and patriarchy, and then this one Cuttack was the economic aspect of domestic violence. Whether the crisis situation in terms of economic resources also leads to domestic violence. Yes, it is. Of course, the situation in the Pakrava Viva relationship is also not very favorable towards women. We find that in Karnal, of course, the stereotype is there, and of course, problem is there definitely. But it was not even better there in Kerala. We find that the situation, the problem of domestic violence and gender insensitivity is there also. Even if their economic and HDI indicators are very high. So what we've observed in that study, since you have quoted that study itself, so what we observed that the problem of gender inequality is prevalent in all the society, be it matrilineal, be it the patriarchy, be it the economic गरीबी और अमीरी, and be it the problem of जहाँ पे लड़की अपने मन से शादी या लड़की वाले अपनी पसंद से शादी कराते हैं, everywhere we find. And then the remedy definitely we see in terms of gender sensitive men. All the man has to be gender sensitive. And I, as an individual, and MARG as an organization, we believe there is no remedy of gender equality. There is no replacement of gender equality. One has to adhere with that. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Arshisha.
So at this issue, we are trying to focus on the role of helplines, essentially in preventing
Yeah.
violence against women and other gender minorities. In your last answer, you did mention giving your own personal numbers as helplines too for the initiative. So basically, building upon that, would you please elaborate on how MARG essentially is contributing to it? If it is, and in your opinion, what roles do you think helplines play in preventing, again, violence against women?
Look, when we talk about helplines, so we have to understand in the systematic frame, as an institution, as an NGO, you cannot replace government mechanism, right? So the best situation would be that why don't we promote the helpline which has been facilitated by government itself, because the primary responsibility of providing redressal and providing the required help and providing the required uh, all kind of requirement is the duty of state. So we try to promote the helpline by the government itself, the police department helpline, the helpline of women commission, say for example 181 for domestic violence. Earlier it was 100, now it is 112. Then in Delhi there is a police helpline for women itself, 1091. So similarly, these are helplines. Okay, why I said so? Because these are uniform numbers and all over the country it is same. Anybody can access it from their own phone. But if some organization trying to provide some help and through helpline, it becomes really a challenge in terms of publicity. So what example I was giving you during the pandemic time, we several organizations tried to provide in our community at least wherever we were active, not all over the country. Even we got some call from maybe somebody has seen through Facebook or somebody, because at that time we were just making it, putting it over Instagram or social media handles and all. So what I feel that was not enough, but helpline really does play a very good role in helping the victim of violence, victim of gender-based violence, and victim of all sorts of violence, to give a kind of confidence. The first thing is that when helpline is there, you at least feel like, yeah, okay, if something happen, I'll call her. I'll call on this number. I try to give you some example that we have conducted, in fact, one study with the Delhi police itself on the helpline, and I don't want to now, open the data because of confidentiality and everything, and we cannot. So, but it has been observed that many of the time they say that के भाई साहब लोग कॉल ना, अगर घर में सांप भी निकल आए ना तो हमें ही कॉल कर देते हैं, 100 नंबर पे कॉल कर देते हैं. कोई कहते हैं कई बार ना हॉक्स कॉल आते हैं, मतलब जो हमारे झूठे कॉल या फॉल्स कॉल भी होते हैं, हम पहुंचते हैं तो पता चला ये भी है. बट उसके बाद भी, इवन आफ्टर ऑल दिस काइंड ऑफ सिचुएशन, one has to understand that okay, this helpline is there to help people, and it can be like in America they say the 911, right? So on 991 they get this kind of call and they take it very normally. If I am in a crisis situation, my life is in danger with the snakes, so I will definitely call helpline, right? So of course, this kind of example are being put in negatively also sometimes. That okay, sometimes we get all wrong call and all, but it's not like that. These helplines are very helpful in terms of boosting confidence. The gaps are there, of course. The person who is sitting other side of the number, that person has to be made sensitized, and that lacks definitely. But the helpline is really helpful. First thing is confidence, then of course you have the follow-up also. You have documentation in terms of helpline, because if you are getting some call over helpline and you don't record, that become again a problem. So you have to record it. Say for example, police helpline, every call is being recorded, and if that call is recorded, then of course some action will be taken. at least you have that trust, you have that faith in a system. So that is really helpful. And for our side, I'll tell you that okay, we are two, three instances. Like one to research wise, we try to address the gap, understand the what are the problem is there, how to address this. These are things we contribute in terms of pipeline, and also our own network. You know, we are also MARG is a part of like some national level network, and then somebody is trying to approach us, so we provide them legal counseling over phone. And if somebody want legal aid, we try to connect them with legal service authority. Sometimes our own lawyer, and sometimes some network of lawyer is also been approached. So this is our mechanism of working over the helpline. And also if we find that it requires some follow up, also we do follow up on that case also. So these are our strategy and our way of working on through helpline. You know. And I'd like to inform you that we are also, on the panel of National Commission for Women. So whoever contact National Women Commission and the National Commission of Women feels that okay, the person needs legal aid, they refer us, to us, or they give our number, and that's why we all. So it's also so normally we get call mostly from Delhi, of course, but also we get calls from other places. Maybe sometimes we get call from Pune itself. Maybe sometimes we get call from Punjab. Sometimes language issue happen, and we try to sort it out also, because we do not have expertise in other language right now. We mostly try to give information through the vernacular in Hindi belt. So Hindi and English, of course, these are the things. So,
All right, sir. Thank you so much. So, what is your opinion uh, in the role of digitalization and technology, such as the introduction of avenues like helpline in recent years in the quest for gender equality?
um, can you elaborate a little bit about your idea of this
Yes,
question?
sir.
Because I understand that it has role in gender equality, because gender equality definitely the situation will arise. The question and the challenge on gender equality would be definitely in terms of violence. So whenever violence is happening, definitely role of helpline will be coming. आप हर दिन हर बार थाने नहीं जा सकते, but you have in this era of digital, and not really digital, it is I put it like postmodern era kind of situation, where we all have access of technology, and almost like a small kids who is like at 1 or 12 months or something, they started using technology. So in this era of time, it is really helpful. And digitization, whenever, that's why I asked you that you please elaborate a little bit, because that's what I understand digitization. You're talking about the putting national level information bank, or some kind of recording of these other things. So is it that you
Um,
wanted to ask?
So exactly. So that is what we are trying to ask. Secondly, basically, so because of digitalization, it has become more accessible. Information is out there, and like things are coming out, and like a lot of being highlighted. So people are more aware of things that are happening. People are more aware of different kind of violence that are happening around in our country. So that role that is helping us understand, what that people are facing issues or not, and is that helping in bringing in gender equality is what we are trying to ask from this question.
This definitely helps in sensitization, but again, I'll tell you that the personal information should not be publicized. So that caution is always there. One. Another thing is who is using the data. That has to be understood. And with great caution, I'm telling you right now that if data are going into the hands of someone else who is not supposed to get this all information, and which can be easily breached, this all safety and all, so that is really problematic. And it is, and even if that, so I'll definitely request that okay, there should be some sense of responsibility and accountability factor also. Very recently, there was some news coming up that an organization, I think some undergarment or something they used to sell, but they had some information, they have some data, but somebody else has hijacked that information somehow. I don't know what the exact word in technology they say, the cracking or something. They did, and uh, yeah, exactly. So they just steal the data, and that data was stolen, and this person started playing some national issue and kind of thing. He himself stole that data. You must be aware of all this all development all. So that kind of situation may arise, which may sometimes put negativity also. So definitely digitization should be there, but that information should not be made public at the cost of personal liberty and private space. That's what I wanted to say.
No, definitely. Thank you so much for your answer because I mean, I'm like studying law too, right? So when you know, get to know more about again your right to information, but at the same time, the security risks that are there. And in the era of like again technology and helplines, I think this is like great, and it's great that confidentiality needs to be sort of maintained to an
Exactly.
extent too. Uh, yeah. So moving on to the next question. Irrespective of the fact that there are different facilities, policies, and laws, the crime rates against the marginalized still remain high, and the conviction rate remains low. So, since your NGO does work like in the sphere of like legal literacy and awareness too, do you think there is like a need to restructure the existing laws that are in place?
No, I think the problem is not there. हमारे यहाँ हिंदी में एक कहावत बोलते हैं, नाच न जाने आंगन टेढ़ा. Okay, so the problem is the implementation. It is not law. There must be some gap, maybe, but the problem is the the implementation and lack of awareness, lack of confidence in the system itself. The moment we say this kind of situation, na, this question itself will bring a kind of is giving a kind of sense that okay, कुछ तो कमी है. चलो यार, कमी ही जब थी तो फिर कमी को ठीक करते हैं, अब चलो इसको भुगत लेते हैं, kind of भाग्य में खा ले लिया. So the problem is not there. I'll put you flat. We have observed that the problem is in the implementation. The bad implementation brings bad governance, and bad governance is the guarantee of misgovernance, and which will bring definitely violation of rights, and not only violation of rights, it will jeopardize the rule of law, and definitely at the end democracy, democratic value. You will not trust. You will not trust the system, and the moment you lose the trust in the system, you will not advocate for that, and you are not advocating that, then you lose the interest in democracy definitely and rule of law, and that is very dangerous situation. So, so we must, in fact, organization like us, MARG, we try to create a kind of atmosphere as much as possible, because at the end of the day, I told you in the beginning itself, we are an NGO. The NGO cannot replace the system, right? So we try to create, the faith in democracy, faith in rule of law, by giving some examples, success stories, some best practices. So definitely, I'll say that more and more legal awareness is required, more and more, the good governance is required. The implementation part. In good governance is what? It is basically good legal implementation. Law has been framed, law has been constituted or statuted in the parliament, but that must be implemented properly, right? If it is not being implemented, the gaps are there. Police is framing people. If allegation are there, I'm not saying police is. I'm saying if allegations are there, that many people are being framed wrongly. So the problem is not in the law, no. Problem is in the system itself, and also the gender issues that which you asked, the gender minority. So again, I'll tell you that there must be some lacuna definitely. And gender minority, when we say, and intersectionality, when we talk, so of course women are there, but there are other segmentation, right? So maybe at present, the situation for women, or maybe the discussion for women or law for the protection of women's rights are more, you know, more, I'll say, uh, I'll say rather better than in comparison to other intersectionality. Definitely, women and children, the protection of women and children, laws are there, good laws are there, but other segmentation definitely. Let's say, for example, LGBTQ. So definitely, the some of the recognitions need to be done. Some legal reform definitely requires to be done. But again, I'll say that the existing system, which is talking about the redressal and remedy, still has some scope. You know, maybe it may not address the situation of marriage, and maybe for all the gender, for all the the segment intersectionality, or maybe family laws or personal laws and all, inheritance and all. But still, the whatever available mechanism apart from the intersectionality laws are there. So my answer would be finally I'll conclude this way that definitely whatever is available that must be utilized properly. Implementation is definitely lacking, legal awareness is lacking, because जो system में जो है वो तो पता ही नहीं है, उसके बारे में तो बात ही नहीं करते. तो एक तो वो हो जाए, and definitely जहाँ पे address करने की जरूरत है, wherever it is required, it must be addressed. So example I've given you, to without being diplomatically correct, I tried to be honest, and I tried to put you in wrong in correct perspective itself, not giving a wrong notion. Okay, ये होना था, ये नहीं होना था, हाँ हाँ होना चाहिए, but बात पूछे कि क्या होना चाहिए तो पता ही नहीं है. So it is that, right?
All right, so last question for today. So what, according to you, could be the policies or efforts taken up by the government or the social
Can
sector
you
to?
please use your mic, please?
Yes,
Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Yes,
So I was asking, what, according to you, could be some policies or efforts taken up by the government or the social sector to ensure the safety of women and gender minorities, such as that there is a preventive and not just remedial strategy in place?
Yeah, I think that was a very good question. I read your question when you said Meena. So in fact यही question था जो मुझे ज़्यादा अच्छा लगा. सब अच्छे लगे, लेकिन this was very good question. So rather preventive only. You are saying that कि prevention से ज़्यादा what should be the redressal thing, right? And of course prevention you cannot ignore. So yes, definitely. There is requirement of more and more, creating that environment. As I told you, I replied you my previous question where you were asking me about the gaps. So I told you that okay, look, gaps are of course there, but awareness की कमी है. So that must be addressed. If that is lacking, so we cannot ensure this thing, the prevention thing. And redressal के लिए जो mechanism है, then again I think there must be some police reform का बहुत दिनों से बात हो रही है, that should be talked about. And definitely there should be talk of, there should be like available. Say for example, I'll give you one example. All of you, both of you must have heard about Legal Service Authority. Okay, if you don't, no worry. Many people don't know. Okay, but Legal Service Authority is a mechanism which is at place from 1987, and it provides free legal aid to everybody, right? And it doesn't only provide free legal aid; it also gives legal awareness. So it begins through this way. First, they make people aware about their rights and mechanism, and if somebody requires legal aid, then they provide legal aid also. And very important, third segment is alternate dispute resolution. Alternate dispute, जो resolution could be, example would be that लोक अदालत, been organized, ADR mechanism includes also mediation, counseling, pre-litigation counseling, conciliation itself. arbitration. Why this? Why so? क्यों चाहिए ये सब? Because एक डायलॉग है कि तारीख तो टू यू नो टू एड्रेस दिस तारीख पे तारीख इशू कि लोगों को लगता है कि पता नहीं न्याय हमारे टाइम मिलेगा भी कि नहीं मिलेगा। स्पीडी न्याय का व्यवस्था होना जरूरी है। आप सिस्टम में नहीं आएंगे अगर आपको ये एहसास हो जाए कि मैं यहाँ अगले 20 साल तक खपने वाली हूँ, तो मैं क्यों फोन करके कॉल करके चाहे तो हेल्पलाइन पे करके क्यों जान पे जंजाल लूँ। चलो कोई नहीं, थोड़ी देर का झेल ही लेती हूँ या झेल लेता हूँ और लाइफ और अब आप एविट करेंगे। You will be like going for some other alternate, not ADR. You will be going to some other extrajudicial mechanism. Sometimes tit for tat situation may arise. So what we feel as an organization that the pendency in the courts, pendency in terms of redressal must be addressed. You know, because it is really a huge gap and it is creating a kind of distrust among the society. And you know, some point of time what happened कि जो कहावत है कि शिकारी ही शिकार हो गया, तो शिकायत करता जो जाता है न्याय प्राप्त करने के लिए, she or he herself become a victim of this system. Again, you know, double victim, triple kind of victim, you know, multiplication of the victimization is happening because of this all, you know, slow redressal mechanism. And it is not only court, you know, there are some authorities in India, they have quasi judicial power that are supposed to provide redressal. They are also lacking. I'm sure you must be aware about, say, for example, I'm just giving one example, quote and unquote. In all over the district in India, we have some local complaint committee, right? And that local complaint committee is supposed to provide redressal to a victim of sexual harassment in workplace. Yes, and that local complaint committee, I'm sure that many of you are aware, or many of you may not be aware, who are the chairperson, who are the members of this committee, where to approach. Itself a tedious process. And then we are saying we have all system, we have all everything, but we are not getting justice. And keep changing the thing, it will not work. Whatever things are there, we must implement it with integrity and understanding the problem of the person who is suffering victimization. It should not be at the cost of other. Say for example, I'll give you one example. uh, when कुछ होता है community में, in community like where people are hand to mouth situation, तो वहाँ आप जाके ज्ञान दो कि क्यों ना आप जो है मतलब सिस्टम को अप्रोच करेंगे। वो कहेंगे हम जाएंगे वहाँ पे हमसे पैसे ले लेंगे, हम वहाँ जाएंगे जो तो विश्वास नहीं है वो। इवन इफ द सिस्टम इज नॉट करप्ट, बट दे आर नॉट अप्रोचिंग इट बिकॉज उनको अवेयरनेस नहीं है, उनको कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं है, एंड दैट शुड बी वर्कड ऑन। So I hope that I speak my mind and your queries are being replied or you got the answer. So if any doubt or any further clearance or further clarification is required, you can definitely ask me, and please contact us at MARG.
Definitely, sir. It was a very great session. What I really liked about is, we had come to you only on that as well, and that was a, that is something really to think about. And we were really great. Everything was very inclusive. It was, so that's one point I really liked. So thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us for this initiative, and making us understand the role of safety and helplines, because that is something is very important for us as a generation as well as everybody around us. So it was great talking to you, and we really hope to speak to you again with many more initiatives. We have many other initiatives with CNES, and we would really like to invite you on that. Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Definitely.
much. Yes.
Thank you both of you. And I'll again conclude from last, if you allow me, that
Yes.
the role is very significant, and it should be boosted, not busted.
Right.
Thank you.